Welcome back, and thank you so much for staying with us. And in case you're just joining us, this is News Check, a program that seeks to talk about some of the most important issues that shape your life, things that are happening in our country and beyond. And of course, we also follow up on some of the events that are happening right here in our country that form part of the news. Now, today we have been talking about a very important topic, and that is how we are progressing when it comes to the war against terror. We have talked about quite a number of issues, including part of the initiatives that as a country we have put in place to counter terrorism and violent extremism. Now in studio I've been talking to Joseph Opondo, the Deputy Director, National Counter-Terrorism Center, and Felix Opondo, a clinical psychologist consulting for the center. Both Opondos, by the way. Thank you so much for staying on. Now, before we went for the break, Felix, we were just having a very diverse conversation that got us to the point where we were trying to look at the online environment and how it can be tapped to abet terrorism if we are not careful. I just want us to pick up from there. Just enlighten us on some of the do's and don'ts when it comes to our online culture.
It's very important that when terror attacks happens, sometimes we are excited in taking photos. For those who are there, sometimes I may find myself that I'm in a situation whereby I can be taking photos. And then I find myself taking photos, and what do? I actually post these photos online. I post them on Facebook and every other social media that is there. One of the things that the moment that we are doing that, we are glorifying terrorism. Sometimes we may also do that, and we may actually reveal our strategy to the terrorists who are actually inside the building, because you can imagine that a situation whereby the security forces are storming the building, and maybe I have my phone and I'm recording that as they're storming the building, and then I post it online. These terrorists inside the building have an access to the very, very online where you are posting these things. Apart from that, that is what they want, because their aim is to create fear and also intimidation. So by posting these things online, we are actually glorifying terrorism. I'm so happy that the situation changed so much in Dusit, especially when the government came in. It was better managed when the government came in very, very strongly. Unlike in the other attacks that we've had, there was very minimal in terms of sending these pictures online. So in terms of the online, we may find ourselves that we are aiding terror in such activities. Yeah. Okay.
Director, probably also talk to us about, in your radicalization programs, what is it that you have identified as some of the motivating factors for young people to be recruited in these terror groups, the things that they take advantage of?
Most of the things they take advantage of was just the excitement and the urge to learn new things, because most of them are in the age of learning and trying to find out that anxiety. So they end up visiting sites which, if you look at it in reality, they didn't intend to, but they were carried by either peer pressure or youth groups and what have you. Then they find themselves lured into these things. Yeah. Yes.
Others have raised concern about joblessness, about somebody feeling like they have been mistreated by the society, and they go there to vent and prove that they are powerful. Are these also things that they explore from a psychologist perspective?
I want to say
if you've been bullied, if you've been mistreated from your home environment, you feel like, let me just go and do something, in vengeance.
Yes and no.
Okay.
And now let me start with the yes. Of course, if you have difficult childhood experiences, bullying in school, bullying at home, traumatic experiences from the hands of the parents, then this can actually also shape you into antisocial behavior. Sometimes you might have even the revenge for the very, very parents, and a strong anger and revenge for the very, very parents. And you can find that probably you're getting into terror to punish your parents. You're getting into terror to revenge on certain things that could have happened to you. And you're meeting a psychological need. You're meeting a psychological need. Of course, it is it's not a rational way of meeting a psychological need, but you can find yourself that you're meeting a psychological need. So that is true. But then that aside, I want to say this, that we've talked about so much about unemployment. This is what has been sold over and over by, and especially by non-governmental organizations and some of these groups, that people get into terror because of lack of employment, because of probably poverty, because of all those factors. I do agree, but the question here is that not every, if that could be the situation, there's some parts of this country like Kibera and the rest whereby everybody could be radicalized and into terror because of probably the poverty level or the low economic level and etc. What I'd want to say here is that ideology is very important. Ideology is very critical. What happens is that all these factors that we say, unemployment, poverty, suffering, and all of them are served in a plate called ideology. Once they've been served in a plate called ideology, then I would be able to serve you. And that is very, very significant, especially as we talk about the area of recruitment. Yeah.
So we need to look at the ideology. What is the belief that somebody is subscribing to as a young person or just anybody in the society? Because that is what can be taken advantage of. I want us to talk about, something very crucial that many a times has been termed as something that, if explored, can really help us combat terror in our country. And this is religion. And there's something beautiful that the center is actually currently conducting, sort of really taking advantage of interfaith to counter violent extremism. I want us to talk about that. What motivated the center to think about that as something that can offer a solution first?
Yeah, thank you very much. The first thing is that when you come to our Constitution 2010, Kenya believes that there's a God. It does not talk about particular religion. So every Kenyan has got some orientation to some particular faith. Now we realize that the faiths we have in this country, apart from our forefathers' faiths that some of us still subscribe to, they are the Abrahamic faiths. We all believe in the faiths associated with the grandfather and Abraham. Now these Abrahamic faiths, Kenya has had a good history of long history of the coexistence with a number of our clerics even studying interreligious harmony or comparative religions, and we have done very well where we have had a lot of harmony. Now when the terrorists came, they knew one way of breaking the society was to break what we love most, that is faith, that's religion. Can divide us, apart from dividing us along ethnic lines, which they are not succeeding because now they try to plant that terrorists belong to particular tribes, which now they didn't succeed because now almost everybody is vulnerable to recruitment. Now they now thought the best thing that is binding Kenyans together is their religion, because Kenyans have got a strong affinity to religion. So what do you do is to plant the seed of discord within the religious organizations, the followers. So if you hit one faith, then the faith will rise up and start fighting the other faith. Then you have interreligious or interfaith disharmony and wars, like has happened in other parts of the world. So what happens is that what we have done as a center, we have coordinated and spearheaded the formation of various interfaiths. We have some like the strong ones, which started the journey, the coast interfaith that has matured. In fact, from coast has devolved now to the counties in the coast province, where we found that in case somebody was recruited along a faith line narrative, you use the same system to undo, press the undo button. And then when there's an issue of that has come up, then these faith leaders, come together and they debunk the narrative that it is this faith fighting against this faith. So that
the stereotypes that are there in the society.
So what happens, members of different faiths, we have seen that there is need to mainstream them in the direction of using interfaith to overcome faith-based phobia. So there's no phobia. So we can sit on a cup and have a cup of tea, irrespective of the faith we have. Now, we have realized that if this is well articulated, the followers of different faiths will be constructively engaged within a context of interfaith domain. And this will help overcome intrafaith and interfaith differences, which could be exploited by recruiters into violent extremist activities, ideological contention, and even controversies, which in turn catalog into violent extremism. Now, this is something that the center has been emphasizing. We are already working on a strong interfaith clerical committee in Western, Nyanza and Western. We have established one with the support of the local leadership of those faiths in North Rift Valley. And we envisage where we shall have a national interfaith, a strong interfaith council of committee of elders, so that when it comes to issues of religion, these religious leaders can sit and sort out their issues. One, these people are trained, they are theologians. They might have gone through different paths, but at the end of the day, they all belong to Abrahamic faiths, either they are Hindus or whatever. They're somewhere where they have interconnection. Now, we have also carried this forward to some of the universities like Tangazo University College, which has got a full-fledged faculty on interreligious dialogue faculty, where these faiths come together and people go there to learn. A Christian can go and learn about Muslim, so that he understands.
I'm interested in knowing how this is working, though, because
so that he knows when a Christian goes and learns and does, in fact, what Islam is. In fact, as I'm talking to you, we have got a leading cleric in the Catholic Church who is well versed on Islamic religious. He has a master's degree in Islamic religious philosophy, and he majored on African brotherhood. So he understands jihadism very well, and he is a Catholic cleric. Yeah. So we are also encouraging through Heshima Institute, run by the Jesuits, where the Muslims can also learn about Christianity. The Hindus can learn about the other religions. Not that you are being converted.
That is what I wanted to ask.
You remain where you are.
How do you deal with, how do you sort of seek unity in an environment where there is already doctrinal differences?
That's now the role of the center. The center has a role to play the coordination aspect of all this, because what we want to bring them under one roof and tell them that the fact that you have different religious paths or faith paths does not mean you should rise up and kill your neighbor, because there's no faith that says kill your neighbor. All the faiths we have, they always talk about peace. Peace. All of them, they talk about peace. So where is this violence coming from? So what we need is that to make people understand how this interfaith cooperation has enabled Kenyans and by large followers of Abrahamic faiths to overcome the associated structural conditions which either directly or indirectly inform their extremism. So because every Kenyan wants to have peace, every Kenyan wants to have development, every Kenyan wants security. So why should your faith be exploited by somebody? Now, we have realized that when you take a Christian to learn about Islam, you are not converting them. Then he has a better understanding, so he cannot be cheated. A Muslim learning Christianity, a Hindu learning the others, and all the rest. So that we say, all of us will believe in God. The faith I belong to is just another line that will lead me to the path that I want to live to heal my spirituality. But otherwise, it should not be used to divide us. Now, the place of interfaith dialogue is, we have found it very important in fostering unity and harmony in institution building, as well as fostering intra-institutional dialogue in the direction of preventing violent extremism. Because even at the university level, you find that, let's say, a person of a various faith is contesting for particular leadership position, then the others will not go follow him because he belongs to this faith, but will follow him for what he brings on board and what he stands for as far as the objectives of that office are concerned. So I don't see a Kenyan in terms of their faith. And this is what we have tried at the center. I can say with confidence that the stereotyping of that had been there in the past by demonizing people because of the way they dress in terms of their religious orientation has really gone down with these enhanced approaches. And then we have found that humanity is based about being good. And the people who are trying to exploit these different paths in religion or in faiths, they were out to show that we are better. We are the ones who have got the key to heaven, or if the heaven exists, or to key to good life and the rest. But now with this kind of approaches, at least we are managing to convince that you follow your religion, follow your faith, and all faiths talk about peace, about love, about coexistence. As a Kenyan, for the Kenyan ideal, with the interest that we had at independence, national interest and values, then you just move on and we have no problem. Yeah.
All right. I'll just come back to you later, but is it possible, Felix, for us to achieve that unity amidst diversity, like what he's sharing with us?
I do agree with the Deputy Director. What he said is, what he just explained is really very important and is achievable. I want to give you an example. When I was at the university, I took a course for the 4 years, and that was outside my main course. I took a course in Islamic religious studies. I did Quran, I did Hadith. I did the whole of the Quran and I did the whole of the Hadith. And basically the religion is focused on Quran and Hadith. And I'm a Christian. And I'm a Christian.
What motivated you to do that?
And I wanted to know what lies in the other perspective. And that's why it becomes easier for me to respond. When I finished my university, before I got a job to teach Islamic studies. And
you're a Christian?
Yes, and I did. So it was just to appreciate what is on the other side. And I don't really want to emphasize what the Deputy Director has said. If you can have, with this actually having the interfaith and having Muslims know what is in Christianity, Christianity know what is in Islam, what it does is that it actually strengthens and is the foundation towards actually the aspect of the de-radicalization, because de-radicalization thrives in ideology, and ideologies are found in religion and politics. And basically in violent extremism, ideologies are founded within religion, and this can make us be able to have a different response to this. For me, it has really helped me, because you talk about something about Islamic faith, I have an idea. Yeah.
You cannot be misled.
I cannot be misled. I have an idea.
So do our religious leaders, satisfactorily, embrace this in their day-to-day operations at churches, at mosques, and at the temple? Do they find a necessity to really address members of the public on such issues like terror?
I want to go back to what the Deputy Director said, that I believe, and as a consultant in the center, I believe that this has been achieved. It's not that it's being achieved. This has been achieved, because already all the interfaiths have been brought together. And remember, bring them together becomes very important, because today is not about. They're able to look at the narratives that are being spread, the narratives that are being taught to these young people. And they're able to actually not only counter the narratives, they're able to have alternative narratives. And remember that I said from the beginning that war on terror hinges so much on recruitment. And with this approach that the Deputy Director has talked about, I'm pretty sure and I'm convinced is going to take us to greater heights in this war against terror and violent extremism.
Do you have a few cases, though, where such platforms have been exploited to really popularize the wrong agenda to those who subscribe to that particular faith? Have you had such cases?
Yeah, at the onset of the terror war, terror in this country, the first thing was to try to hit the different followers of the different faiths, so that the faiths could fight that war on their behalf. Mm-hmm. But immediately we seized the opportunity. We started with the security agencies. We brought in the chaplains and the imams and sheikhs working the security agencies under one roof like this, and we had a mutual conversation. Now this went down, and I think these terror groups went away shy and annoyed in some inconstance. Mm-hmm. But because what we have also realized from the center, from the research, is that those who are recruited into this extremism, and by the way, extremism does not come from the Muslim path only. Mm-hmm. It also comes from the other faiths, even Christian extremism. And an extremist is an extremist. He can use any form of these faiths.
So we need to get out of the stereotypes.
The stereotypes.
And the misled branding.
Yeah, and the branding, so that at least, it is overdoing, and it is something that now you lose your identity into this kind of faith. You subtract yourself from being the human being, and now you plant some religious or some faith following or tenets are planted into you. Then you start denying your own self. You live in denial, so that even your cleric, their leader in the church or in the mosque, can tell you do this, and you just obey because you are loyal. Your loyalty level to that organization goes higher than loyalty and value system to yourself. Now, this country has got a nice code of conduct for how people should behave, but now you defy all those because you see those to be foreign and alien. Mm-hmm. Now, when you bring this conversation together on the round table, and with the support of the other organizations, where you have a Muslim leader or a sheikh going to talk to a Christian fellowship or the rest, or the Christian fellowship does this. And the funny thing is that at the global level, you find, let's say, for example, the head of the Catholic Church goes to a synagogue, goes to a mosque. Now you wonder why the followers down here should not do the same. So this is what we are trying to drive into the minds of the Kenyans, so that nobody comes to hit you simply because you you follow a particular line in your belief in your God. Yeah.
Religion is just religion. It shouldn't be used as a weapon against the other person. No. Look at what has happened during the COVID-19 season, when the Interfaith Council came together and really came up with, at times of crisis like this, we can only work together if we are to win a war as big as this one.
Yes.
It won't add value if we are fighting against each other. It doesn't matter which faith you subscribe to, maybe of a different opinion, but that shouldn't be a weapon for me to use against you.
Correct.
And by the way, when you are sick and you go to hospital and you are told to go to door 13, do you ask the religion or the faith of that person, the doctor you're going to see? You simply go diligently and stay there till you are told get in. And the doctor you see there, whether he is an atheist, is a Legio Maria, is a Catholic, he'll treat you. What you want is the medicine, isn't it?
At the end of the day.
At the end of the day. What do we now, when these other things come, you start knowing,
yeah, well said. In your programs, do they ever get out, those who've been recruited into terror groups? And what is the process post, somebody has just been taken through such a program and they felt like, yes, I want to leave this group? What are some of the things that are done in terms of even ensuring their own safety and all that? Do you have cases of people who've really left that life and they've said, no, never again?
We have so many of them. So many of them. So many of our youths, so many of our people who have gone out there and they have chosen the path to come back. Because
this narrative of once you're in, there's no coming out.
They have come up so many.
You'll come out dead. It's not true.
They have come out, and we take them through a system of disengagement, rehabilitation, and reintegration back to society. Because some of them had just were suffering from hopelessness, and maybe the narrative that the grass is greener on the other path. So when they go there, they find that they don't know the quality of grass and how the other grass in that village is treated. Then most of them, they pull on. And when they come back, at the center we have a document that I think is the only one in Africa, which has been developed in the system of our international partners, called the radar. This document, this instrument will always know at what level one person reached. Maybe it's on red, green, or red, or yellow. But now we know when you come back and you are on red, we know you may undergo through various actors. If you are green, so we know the pathway, the psychological pathway to recruitment. What made you accept to be recruited? And then we can now press the undo button, and then we can see how to take you through. If it was through a religious line, ideology, it was through these other narratives, then we know how to bring on board, who to talk to you, and then bring you back, and then we reintegrate you, and then get you back to society.
But at a later stage,
yeah, but
there's
it's a process
in between, yeah?
Yeah, it's a process.
You just don't take them back to their families
No,
immediately?
you don't force them.
Okay.
And first of all, they must be willing. They must have understood that they chose a wrong path. Yeah. Some of them will let the law take its course, but at some stage they they realize that there are mistakes, and they realize that they have to come back to society. So we facilitate them to have an easy return into society and get back to useful life. A number of them have come back, and they're doing very well. Do
you follow up to look at cases such as their security status and the stigma they could be facing?
Of course.
Do you follow up?
Of course.
Okay.
At the center, and that's why at NCTC and for the government as a whole, we have the strategy of countering violent extremism. And one of the pillars is on the psychosocial, where we have the psychologists that come in and assist the clinical psychologists like him, the forensic psychologist, the council psychologist, and even the religious leaders and the community-based organizations, even the government agencies, Ministry of Culture and Social Services, so that they can be socialized back to society. Okay, it is not very easy, but with the expertise we have in this country, and Kenya does not lack this expertise.
They're there.
They're there.
Felix is right here.
It's a matter of just harnessing them and coordinating them.
Felix, is it possible for somebody to really disengage from that former life? You could just close your eyes and you imagine the things you've done, the people, the buildings you've really destroyed, and the lives you know. Is it possible for somebody to disengage from all that?
We have disengaged. I have disengaged quite a number, and some of them who are in the some of them who you could not be able to imagine. These people can be disengaged. We have disengaged them. We have success stories of disengagement, and basically I would say that consulting for the center, we are taking a lead in the entire Africa and within the globe in terms of actually disengaging these people, success stories in the disengagement. So,
what role can the family and the whole society at large play in this whole process of, you know, sort of taking somebody through that journey? What is it that they can do as part of their support?
One of the aspects of the disengagement is reintegration. And the moment that we disengage them, we have to reintegrate them back into their own families and reintegrate them back into their own societies. Because by the time that they subscribe to these particular ideologies and this particular way of life, just like the deputy director said, that it removes them from themselves.
Some disown their families, and the families disown them.
These people, the moment that they get recruited, these people, actually one of the things is that these people are ready to make costly sacrifices. And that's what they do, what they do. These people have got sacred values that they ascribe to, that they actually cannot negotiate on those sacred values that they have within the in-group. They've got their sacred values. These people are really willing to die for their group and even willing to kill. When we are able to support these people in the disengagement, and they get back to their families, we have to again also reintegrate them with their families.
All right. Earlier we were talking about the terror and at the heart of the attack, yeah? And you had just started talking about this psychological support and what goes on in the psychology of somebody who has been a victim of terror. I just want you to just briefly touch on whether there are programs that also addresses some of the terror victims, just to support them through just processing that information and that experience. Is there anything to that effect?
Two things would go into the mind of a terror victim. One, some of them could actually suffer a diagnosable mental or psychological disorder, like post-traumatic stress disorder, or maybe acute stress disorder, or maybe some of them could manifest some brief psychotic disorders because of what they have been able to see. We talk about the issue of trauma. We get traumatized because of what we see. The five senses: what we see, what we touch, what we smell, what we taste. Within being a victim of terror attack, they're likely to go through this, and that's why we take them through, first and foremost, today we take them through psychological first aid. Once we take them through psychological first aid, then later on we can actually plan for long therapy sessions with them. And I'd want to say, probably, I know there's a program that the director and the center came up with, especially the Dusit attack, that was really significant in supporting the victims that we're talking about. Probably, may I ask if...
you can chip in and just tell us about that, because that is exactly what I'm asking. There are programs.
There are programs. In fact, in NCTC pillar strategy, we have a pillar on psychosocial support, and we have gone out and we have used it. And we did a good test drive after the Dusit attack. Within 2 hours of the attack, we were able to assemble leading psychologists in this country, and through one of the leading health facilities in this we have in this town, we got 4 rooms where all the victims that were admitted in hospitals, including their relatives, when they came to learn, the relatives of those who were killed or even those who were hurt, they were taken through that psychological support to socialize them, so that they see this was just a terror attack. It was not something to stay in their life permanently. And today, as I'm talking to you, I think I can produce the list of all people who were in Dusit, who were attacked, and which hospitals they went to, and who the doctors that saw them. So because the post-traumatic disorders is talking about is that it may manifest itself even after 5-10 years. So let's say if somebody is starting to show some of those signs, and we realize that he was either at the scene of the attack, or he was injured, he was whatever, and he starts showing these signs, then we can even go back and find out from the hospital records who treated him or her, and what interventions can be handled immediately. So that one we are doing using the pillar we have of psychosocial at the NCV strategy. The biggest issue about this issue is about socialization. Can you get back to be socialized into your day-to-day life, your way of life? Can we restore your way of life even after you have been a victim, or even after your relative had been attacked, so that you don't wake up in the night and start screaming and what have you? But the effects on the social and the psycho side are very real and are very devastating if they're not taken through.
Yeah,
and maybe to add to what the Deputy Director has said, through the National Center of Counter-Terrorism, we have trained psychologists in rehabilitation, in integration, and in psychological intervention countrywide. And one of the things, if the situation in Mombasa, there's a contact. The situation in Taita, there's a contact. The situation in Lodwar, there's a contact. And there's special psychologists who have actually been trained in response, in rehabilitation, in psychological intervention and integration that can be reached at any time everywhere within this particular country.
Yeah. And I find that important because these people may have survived, but their lives may never be the same if they're left, you know, unattended. They need to be, somebody needs to walk with them through that journey and just help them process that information and, you know, just instill hope in them that it's not a scar. It's something that actually is a story of triumph over something that was really, you know, devastating. Let's talk about this once we come back. Right now, I just want to take our viewers to something that is happening right here in Nairobi. We are still following up on the industrial action by the healthcare workers. Right now, there's a presser by the Kenya National Union of Nurses at their offices. Let's just listen into what they have to say.
Own reasons to come so that they can sign and we finalize the conclusion of resolutions to this strike. Therefore, our members should stay put until such a time that the government, especially the COG, will see it fit for them to come and sign the return to work agreement with us, because they were fully engaged, they were fully present, they were fully represented in the negotiations which were concluded. And the union committed itself to that negotiation and gave all it could so that we could agree, and the agreement was reached, which is on the table of the labor minister. Therefore, we call upon the citizens of this nation to demand for their rights from the governors whom they elected, so that they can see the sense and the suffering of wananchi, then they come and sign the return to work agreement. Failure to which, even if it is going to take 1 year and above before they come to sign, we shall not go back to work, because the issues we raised were genuine. The committees that we were given to negotiate it with also agreed with us. And that is how we drafted the return to work formula. So therefore, there is no reason for any other person, any other entity to come and disagree with that agreement at this level. We call upon the head of state of this nation to intervene with speed so that he can save the citizens of Kenya from the suffering that is being caused by some entities of the government who are refusing to sign the return to work agreement. Our members are fully on strike in all the branches, all the public facilities, and as we made it clear the other time, we are in consultations with the MTRH, that is my teaching and referral hospital, and KNH, that the delays that we are facing and seeing that is overwhelming them in those facilities will not be allowed to go further, and therefore they are going to make their pronouncements of when they are going to start also their strike, so that the government can see the seriousness of the issues which were raised by the health workers in public facilities. Thank you. Any questions?
Yes, I have two questions.
Yes.
When was the last time that the nurses received their salaries? And what's the union's take on the suspended or fired nurses in Kisumu County?
I want to say that we have nurses who have not received their salaries for 16 months. One of those counties, which after failing
some of the grievances being raised by the healthcare workers. Earlier we were in the coastal region, right here in Nairobi. The situation is similar. You've heard them there just raising their voice on some of the issues that they're lamenting over when it comes to their working environment. Just before we left there, you heard them say, there are nurses who have not been paid their salaries. We've heard them even complain of lack of personal protective equipment. In the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, yet they are the ones who stay in the front line in the battle against this pandemic. They've talked about delayed promotions. Some have worked in the same level over the years, and it's issues that have been raised across different cadres, the clinical officers, the nurses, the doctors who've also gone on industrial action. But right now, the bone of contention remains the fact that they are complaining and blaming the Council of Governors over what they term as not fulfilling their side of the bargain when it comes to the return to work formula for them that have gone back to work. So some have opted to, resume their strike, like the clinical officers. The nurses are still on strike. And we will continue to follow up on this particular story for you, just to see how this impasse is going to be resolved, hopefully soon, because they still remain pivotal, especially now that we are battling with a serious pandemic in our country. The back and forth, it's about time it comes to an end so that service delivery at our healthcare facilities can resume as usual. Now in studio, we have been talking about another important matter, that is the war on terror. And we seem to be taking quite a number of steps as a country, as my guests are sharing with me this morning. We're just about to come to the climax of this conversation. And gentlemen, I'd just like us to, take the remaining few minutes of our time to talk about the way forward and what lies ahead. I don't know, as a center, if you can just share with us some of the interventions and programs that probably are lined up for the country going forward that may, prove important in winning this war against terror.
Yeah, thank you very much, Safina. As a center, we have lined up a number of programs. Some of them were building on what we are doing already. Some 2 years ago, we started a conversation with the journalists down on the ground. We moved on to the editors, and just recently now we had the producers and the sub-editors, who are actually the people who quote are in the kitchen doing the production, the cooking of this whatever, because we felt that the role of the media is very important. And even in the NCV strategy, there's a full-fledged pillar dedicated to media, the role of media, because in as much as we want an informed society, we also want a responsible reporting society, where as a media personality, you put Kenya first before you become a media person. The patriotism and even the rules of the game. We are happy that the Media Council of Kenya has come up with a good manual, which is to control the behavioral patterns of the media. And through these conversations, which we are all doing collaboratively with the Media Council of Kenya and the Editors Guild and all the rest, we are getting into a conversation where we bring all our heads together, because the country has got developed standard operating procedures, so that in case of an attack, who should do what at what time and the rest. And we don't want to have a situation where when the media go there, they are in conflict, let's say, with security agencies. They should know that the media are there to do their role, and security agencies are there to do their role. So where does your role start and stop? At what stage do you come in? At what stage do you stop? And then what value are you adding to this conversation? We are also, as I told you, we are continuing to establish more interfaith registered council of clerics, so that we have them all over the country. In the next few days, we are going to start distributing the booklets of the child safety against violent extremism in all the schools and learning institutions. We also intend to continue having conversation with the deans and registrars of our learning, especially universities, both public and private, because we know the turnover. A number of them that we have talked to, we have trained, they get greener pastures, some of them retire, Some of them go to other things.
So it has to be a continuous
process. We also continue with the frontline officers. That is use of the county security intelligence committees. Last year, we were happy to register that we have established county action plans in all the 47 counties in this country, because we have discovered that with the devolved units of government, every devolved unit have their own issues. So at their own level, in their devolved, their county, they can know how to tackle some of these issues that we are talking about better. They are better placed
to know.
They can custom-make their own interventions. So we are trying now to see how do we strengthen these county action plans in the various counties. A number of them have picked up very well, but some of them we are still working closely to make sure that they meet the par, so that they can tackle their issues and even get their own funding, so that they don't keep on saying the government come and fund us. How do they do their own resource mobilization at their counties? Because once they own up the threat, they own up the war, then they will come up and say, how do we fund even our own operations and mitigate and prevent the normal people in their counties.
All right, well said, Director. We're running out of time for this conversation, unfortunately, but as we just bringing it to a close, probably Felix, as part of your final remarks, you can also tell us, just add on what he has said, the role of the media. How far is too far?
Yeah, the role of the media is very important. We've trained quite a number in the media. The role of the media is very important. I just want to say that one is that without media, again, I would say that maybe there's no terror. There would not be terror, because they thrive. They thrive on the coverage, and they're assured of free coverage.
So a blackout, is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah. I'm just saying that, of course, you cannot have a blackout, because the public must also be informed about what is happening. It's about just the media being able to get the middle ground, because they need the media to actually propagate their heinous acts. We also need the media to inform us about what is happening. So it's about the media
to balance.
A
tricky balance.
A very, very tricky balance.
Yeah.
And that's why I said by saying that if we have no media, we have no terrorism, because they thrive on that reporting.
Okay, your final word.
Yeah. I think every other stakeholder in this country needs to take the forefront in this war. As a country, I believe we've made a very, very significant step in this. And this can be seen in terms of what we are having at the moment. Every stakeholder, let's take up the public, we have a role. Every other sector, the security, we have a role in this. Professional groups, we have a role in this. And we'll be able to take this country to another level in this war against terror.
All right. Director, your final words?
Mine is just to appeal to all the Kenyans, everybody in this country, to join forces with the efforts the government is doing. They join the National Counter-Terrorism Center, the initiatives and whatever policies and strategies we are coming up with, so that we work collectively and build resilience against the war, against the threat of terrorism and other organized crimes, because terrorism can't thrive in the absence of other transnational or other organized crimes. So Kenyans to come and know that yes, all these crimes, they feed into terrorism. So if they build resilience against all these threats, all these crimes, then of course we are going to have a more peaceful country, a more lovely country, and then we can restore our faith in our systems and in ourselves. Kenyans need to have faith in themselves as they do these things, not just leaving out to the government operatives.
Believe in yourself.
But let Kenyans believe in themselves and know that this is our country, and this country is for us. The citizen has got the right to take care of their own security and even participate in their security.
All right. That is Joseph Opondo, the Deputy Director, National Counter-Terrorism Center. Of course, also I was having this conversation with Felix Opondo. Both Opondos are clinical psychologists consulting for the center. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for creating time for us. My take home from this conversation, terror thrives on fear and division. And we really need to really have this, be strong and resilient for us to win this war. It's not about feeling sorry sorry, feeling weak. It's about believing in ourselves and knowing that we can actually win this war. Thank you so much.